All right, everybody, welcome back to the call. This is our football segment, and I am alongside my co-host here, our resident Clemson fan, Mr. Bobby Mahernan. Bobby, how you doing today?
Hello, everyone. Yes, as Andrew said, I'm the resident Clemson fan over here in Birmingham, Alabama, and my name is Bobby. Uh, let's get started.
Let's do it.
Let's jump into it.
Let's do it.
So I want to start out with the rankings, if that's okay.
Let's do it.
The new rankings came out last night. All right. The main thing that I noticed from the new rankings, of course, 1 through 6 unchanged. Didn't see any need for those to change at all. But Iowa State jumping up 2 spots.
To number 7.
Yeah, to number 7. I think after listening to the committee chairman talk after the rankings came out, I think this wasn't a knock on Cincinnati not playing. It was more of just like Iowa State just looking that good.
Yeah.
Which their 2 wins from that initial rankings were Texas and West Virginia.
Yeah.
Texas, very close. Texas could have come back in that game. They almost had a chance to send it to overtime. And then West Virginia was just like an all-out performance. I mean, they had already clinched the Big 12 at that point, at least the championship game. But there was no doubt that they were the best team on the field.
Yeah.
So I think, yeah, Cincinnati not playing definitely helped them. But I also think it was just more of like, we respect Iowa State.
I think this is a classic case of
and plus Georgia didn't play either.
right.
So like, I mean, that also played into it, I think.
I think there's 2 things we need to note here. I think first of all, this is a classic case of, like you said, Iowa State clinching the Big 12 championship spot, right? And so they're out there to show off. They're out there to say, hey, this is a game in which we can show the committee, we can show the world how good we are. And I think they did that with a 42 to whatever it was blowout. And then also we've talked about this before. We're in a year where games are being canceled, games are being postponed, and as you heard our good friend Kirk Herbstreit say last night, even with Ohio State, the number of games does matter to an extent. And so again, I don't think it was a knock against Cincinnati. I don't think it's a knock even against some of these other teams that have played 10. I'm looking at a Coastal Carolina team that I think proved themselves to be a very good team, jumping 5 spots to 13. I don't think it's a knock against teams that have played more games or not. I just think that, again, like you said, Iowa State proved themselves to be that good of a team. And so
I just have loved this. I've loved watching Iowa State over the year. Of course, they had that just horrible loss to Louisiana. I mean, you think at Iowa State since they joined the Big 12, like that was probably one of their worst games ever. Like, I mean, like they had so many special teams miscues. And I just remember at the very beginning of the season, that was the storyline of college football. Like there were so many teams that were having special teams issues. And we'll get to a game where a team actually still does have special teams issues. But yeah, I mean, we can talk about this more, but I think that's the biggest takeaway from last night. Just Iowa State jumping. We got USC jumping a couple ranks. Colorado coming in, not ranked last week. I just, here's the deal. Is Colorado, let's see. Yeah, Colorado's in the same division as USC. So how do they not play each other?
I that doesn't make any sense. Well, it's because
that doesn't make any sense.
It's because of the shortened schedule.
Yeah.
Okay. I mean, it's got to be. So I'm also looking at and I know you want to talk about this game later, so I'm just going to tease it here. I'm looking at a Louisiana team that jumped 6 spots after a baffling performance. And then a Missouri team who is squeaked into the top 25, which sets up an interesting matchup, I think, against the Georgia Bulldogs later this Saturday. So
how is that a ranked matchup? I don't understand how that's a ranked matchup.
Because Missouri's a good football team.
All right. Well, you know what? You teased it. Let's get into it. I want to talk about the debacle that happened in Boone, North Carolina on Friday night. I was watching this game start to finish because you and I differed on this game. I had App State winning, you had Louisiana winning, and let me tell you, App State has been one of those teams over the years that has ruled the Sun Belt, and for a Power 5 team to play App State, like, they're automatically on upset alert.
Yeah.
And App State, they've had 2 losses, one to Coastal, one to Louisiana on Friday. But let's talk about this game. First off, App State's at home. All right. Louisiana, they had 4 missed snaps by their long snapper. They had 3 punts and then 1 extra point. And first, one of the missed snaps on a punt turned into a touchdown for App State. The only score of the first quarter. The other one turned in a good field position for App State, and then the last one turned into a safety. Where the punter just said, you know what, I'm not going to let anybody get it. I'm just going to kick it out of the end zone. And it's funny because the announcers were saying that Billy Napier, the coach of Louisiana, was giving this guy, the long snapper, such high praise for the way he's been playing this year. And then it's just, this game just did not bode well for him. But I will give him a little bit of credit. The conditions were terrible. I mean, it was raining. It was cold. I'm looking at the QB passing stats. App State QB, 92 yards.
Yeah.
92. Louisiana quarterback, 101 yards. Look at these stats. 8 for 23 passing and 10 for 21 of passing.
Yeah.
That just tells you this is not good conditions.
No.
But I will say the App State team had no issues with their special teams play.
No.
But and I have to get on my little pedestal here. The coaching decision at the end of this game by Billy Napier was one of the worst I've ever seen in college football.
Yeah.
They won the game, but they basically handed App State an opportunity to win the game, or at least tie the game. So
right.
The scenario went as this. It was Louisiana had the ball. They got a turnover on downs from App State. They had it at about the 30-yard line, and App State had 3 timeouts. All right, so in that scenario, normally the offense just runs the ball, makes the other team uses their timeouts and everything. But App State ran the ball twice, got it to where it was a 3rd and 2, and Billy Napier decides to throw the ball to potentially seal the game. Obviously, the wide receivers are not going to catch the ball, right? It's raining, right? So he misses it. App State saves the timeout. It's now 4th and 2, and guess what Louisiana decides to do? They decide to snap it to the QB and have the QB run out of the end zone for a safety. So instead of it being a 5-point game with 2 minutes to go, it's now a 3-point game with 2 minutes to go. App State gets the ball, and on the ensuing kickoff, takes it all the way to the 40-yard line. So now App State's 30 yards away from field goal range. Walk me through this, Andrew. What is he thinking? Or just like me.
The only logical explanation for that, whatever you want to call it, decision was that I think the coach Napier was thinking, well, if I put a safety out there and give them 2 points, do I trust my defense to play enough to force a field goal, which forces overtime? Because if you're down 5 points, your only option is a touchdown for App State, and that's 7 points, or at least 6 points. And so in that case, I think Napier's thinking, well, do we give them a field goal, force overtime, or do we force them to try to score? Which, if they score, they win, and Louisiana loses. If they kick a field goal, at least it's overtime. That's the only rational decision I think he made. I mean, the rational part of that decision. Yeah. At the same time, I don't know if I've ever in my life seen a quarterback receive a snap and run backwards for a safety. I mean, if you trust your defense to force a field goal, then why not go for it on 4th down, or why not punt? Why not try to set up a punt that's inside the 10 and down?
Now I agree with the punt, the punting for Louisiana, they had maybe 2 good punts the entire game. So I agree with that. But here's the thing. The conditions were horrible. I say you don't even pass the ball on 3rd down. I say you run the ball on 3rd and 2, potentially get a first down, maybe get it to where it's like 4th and 1, 4th and inches, and then do a QB run. The QB for Louisiana is special. Like he's a good runner. Like I was watching this game, I was like, dang, this guy's pretty good. Look, Louisiana won the game, so nobody's going to talk about it. But I decided I'm going to talk about it because that was, I don't care what the coach was saying after the game. In my mind, that's a terrible coaching decision.
Yeah, I don't know if I'd make that same decision, man.
I say you trust your offense and you trust your defense because you're telling your defense right there, hey, if we don't get it, we trust you to come up with a stop and force a field goal, which, okay, they ended up letting them get a field goal and the dude missed. But still, you know what? That's all I got on this game. But hold up, before we leave the Sun Belt and come back to the BYU Coastal game, the Sun Belt, man, it has been exciting this year.
It has been.
I am a big fan of Sun Belt now. Like It's much better than watching a Big 10 game or a Big 12 game for that matter. I'm a big proponent of the Sun Belt now. So
yeah, I was just looking at something too. They've got this is just an off-topic thing real quick. You mentioned the Sun Belt, and then we'll get to Coastal Carolina here in a second. But this was actually just posted on ESPN. Seth Wadler is an ESPN analysis person, and he looks like he wrote an article, but it's the playoff predictor for 2020. And he said, look who snuck into the all-state playoff predictors list of the 10 most likely playoff teams after beating BYU. Coastal is at the very bottom with a 2% chance to make the playoff.
Coastal Carolina, man.
Coastal, you have earned my respect with the 2%.
Dude. Coastal Carolina, man, the Chanticleers, like everyone picked them to finish dead last in the Sun Belt. And to just come out with a freshman quarterback and just light everybody up. I mean, I really hope they beat Louisiana again in the Sun Belt Championship. I know they have Troy this weekend, but I don't see any issue with that. But Louisiana could give them trouble, neutral site, maybe. We'll see. But I love the Sun Belt now. I'm a Sun Belt guy.
I'm right there. I live in an area where a Sun Belt team plays. So
yeah.
So poor Jags. We won't talk about them. All right. We'll move on.
Yeah, we'll move on. The rest of college football. Let's talk about Ohio State, Michigan State. Honestly, I thought this was going to be a lot closer. Ohio State was out a lot of players. I think they were out 23, if I'm not mistaken. 23 players. A lot of offensive linemen down. I thought they might. Michigan State, of course, got that upset against Northwestern. Is that right?
Yeah.
Northwestern. So I thought this could be a closer game. But, you know, I was sad that Ohio State won by 40, honestly.
Well, here's the deal. I put them on upset alert last week, as we know, and again, with Michigan State beating Northwestern, I saw some things that might give Ohio State some trouble. It was at home for Michigan State. But what I didn't take into account, and I think what Kirk Herbstreit backed up last night, especially since now the Ohio State-Michigan game is canceled, we'll talk about that later. I think Ohio State, every chance they get to play now, they're trying to prove a point to the committee that, hey, we deserve to be in there. And I think they obviously did that with a 40-point win over Michigan State. So
even down their head coach, down some big players. So you know what? Credit to Ohio State for getting together and kind of rallying the troops, so to speak. But yeah, a little surprised Michigan State didn't keep this a little bit closer.
Yeah, I am too.
Now the next game I want to talk about, Texas A&M and Auburn.
Bobby, you said A&M has not impressed you whatsoever, and we were talking about this before the podcast, and you said that again, we're not impressed. Talk about it.
So let me back up a little bit. So A&M, I gave them the benefit of the doubt last week because they hadn't played in a couple of weeks. So I was like, okay, maybe they're a little bit rusty. But this week against Auburn, I know it's a away game, but I mean, Auburn was leading in the third quarter, and A&M ended up coming back with 17 points in the fourth quarter. And I just think A&M has had chances to prove to the committee, hey, we deserve this number 5 ranking, potentially number 4 ranking, but they just time and time again, they just haven't proven to me and the committee that they are a complete team first quarter to fourth quarter, right? And so I think it also is very similar to what Florida has looked like.
Yeah.
So Florida, for the past 3 games, right? So they've played Vanderbilt, Kentucky, Tennessee, all right? Of those 3 games, they have not looked good in the first half. Like,
no,
Tennessee, not so much. I'll give them a little bit of credit against Tennessee, but that game was still closer than it should be. But both of those teams have not proven to me that they are a complete team first quarter to fourth quarter. So I think that's honestly what's going to hurt them. Now, if Florida beats Alabama in the SEC championship, then who cares? But I'm just saying from A&M's perspective, they are not going to play in that championship game, so they need all of the opportunities and momentum to prove to everyone that they are a complete team.
Well, if you remember, Alabama beat A&M 51-24. And so what A&M needs right now is these games against Auburn and against LSU and against all these other teams. They need to be not just a win, they need to be a convincing win. And I think you and me talking about this, especially, because you said that you weren't impressed with A&M at all, and I don't think I am either. A&M's just not giving us a convincing win to say, okay, well, maybe they should really be considered for the playoff, even though they're not going to be in the SEC championship. I just don't see – I could not justify putting A&M over an Ohio State right now, or a Clemson, or a Notre Dame. I couldn't do it because of the style of play. And even with Florida too, like Florida, great team. They're playing some great football, but again, they're just not. I mean, to be in this playoff with teams like, again, Bama, Clemson, Ohio State this year, Notre Dame, you've got to be a caliber team that when you play teams that are supposed to be convincing wins, you've got to convince. And starting slow for consecutive games tells me that, hey, what is that adjustment in practice looking like? Are we making that adjustment every game? And to me, we've seen Florida start slow several games. We've seen A&M start slow or finish slow several games. There's not that adjustment. And to beat a Bama team for Florida, you're going to have to make a huge adjustment, because once Bama gets going, we talked about this before, Bama gets going, and they're not going to slow down.
Well, and I just kind of thought of this just now, like maybe this speaks to the coaching staff and how they have some really good second half adjustments, right? So they start slow, but in the second half, they turn it on. But my thing is like, that's not going to do it against those teams you just mentioned. And for me, like A&M had a chance. I thought they had a chance if Ohio State didn't play in the Big Ten championship, which is looking like they might not because they don't have enough games to qualify. I thought A&M, if they proved in these last couple of weeks that they were blowing out teams, like, I thought they honestly might deserve it. Now, I don't know. The committee probably wouldn't have let them in, but in my mind, I probably would have let them in, especially if Ohio State didn't even play in the Big Ten championship. No. But I just don't know. I just don't know with A&M, and now they only have one more game left with Tennessee. It's like, because Ole Miss this week was postponed, which – I mean, when are they going to postpone it to?
Yeah.
Unless they postpone it to like Monday or Sunday, they're just not going to have enough chances to play.
Yeah. We needed to see A&M give some power punch games out at the end of the season.
Now, here's the thing. If Notre Dame beats Clemson and Alabama handles Florida, then I think they're in. I think they're in. I think the committee has shown that, hey, we like A&M, so Notre Dame beats up on Clemson and Alabama beats Florida, like I think they're in. I don't think you.
The only I will say this.
Cincinnati.
Well, right now, here's what I would say. Unfortunately, I'm a Cincinnati fan. If Cincinnati can come out and win their championship game and prove, hey, fine, we were off for 1 or 2 weeks, whatever. We're still the same football team. We're still a power football team, maybe. But the way I'm just looking at how the committee's thinking, if Notre Dame were to beat Clemson, if Ohio State, even if Ohio State were or were not to win their championship and get put in, either one of those scenarios, I wonder, Bobby, because if Bama beats Florida, Florida's done. I wonder if Iowa State sneaks into there because of the Big 12 championship win potentially versus Oklahoma. I just don't. You got to look at all these parts here. Do you?
I agree with you. I think A&M gets in before Iowa State. I don't like the 2-loss scenario. Although they're a 2-loss champion, I think it's got to be convincing against Oklahoma. Like it's got to be like a blowout.
If Iowa State, which I think Iowa State knows this, if Iowa State goes in there.
Well, wait. Wouldn't Oklahoma have the same scenario though? Oklahoma's got.
But if you look at Oklahoma, I don't know. I don't know. What I'm saying is I'm looking at the rankings right now, where people are placed. You couldn't justify putting a ranked 11 Oklahoma team if that changes maybe a 10 or a 9 up into a playoff. But if you look at the scenario with Iowa State, you've got a Florida team that potentially could lose the SEC championship. You've got a Clemson team that if they lose that ACC championship game, they're out. And who knows with Ohio State, with a Big 12 champion in Iowa State potentially, do you justify putting them over a non-champion 1-loss A&M team? I think that's where the committee's got to look at schedule and say who's playing better, who's convincingly better. Which again is what I've been saying. A&M has had to prove that, and I don't know if they've convinced me right now that they belong with a company like Alabama, Notre Dame, potentially Ohio State or Clemson. I don't know.
So I will say I'll give you one scenario where I think Ohio State might have a better shot. If Louisiana beats Coastal Carolina in the Sun Belt Championship, that loss against Louisiana, like the committee always talks about quality wins and quality losses. All right, so if Louisiana wins the Sun Belt against Coastal, it makes Iowa State's loss against Louisiana a little bit better, so to speak. So I think that could happen. In my mind, if you have 2 losses, you're out. Doesn't matter if you win the conference or not.
Yeah.
This current iteration of the college football playoff. So, anyways,
I think you look at Iowa State's other loss at Oklahoma State when Oklahoma State was number 6. Now Oklahoma State's obviously fallen now, not as good of a team.
That's a bad loss on Iowa State's record because now Oklahoma State's lost again to TCU, which let's get into that. TCU, who knew, coming back. What a game! What a game! TCU has had now 2 wins against teams where it's just kind of wrecked their season. Like I'm looking week 3 against Texas. Texas number 9 in the country at that point, going in and beating Texas. And then now beating up on Oklahoma State. It's like, God. I mean, TCU,
Oklahoma State is always this team that starts good. Yeah. And then, like, midway through the season, they'll drop a few games. They'll come back. They'll climb back up the rankings, and then they'll just blow it. I don't know what Mike Gundy's doing, but he needs to change something because they're always like this. And that program has produced some really good players. And so, what do we do to change that? I don't know if it's a coaching change. I don't know if it's a different offensive, defensive philosophy. I don't know. But yeah, TCU coming out, playing a good game and shutting them out in the fourth quarter, scoring 8 points over their nothing. And so, it's a home game. Congrats to TCU on proving.
I think this is what saves Gary Patterson's job. I honestly think so. You got 2 quality wins against better teams than you. I think Gary Patterson now has a job again at TCU.
Yeah,
which is a shame.
Yeah,
I don't think he deserves to be there. Anyways, let's move on. Can we please just talk just briefly about the Rice Owls?
Marshall, yeah. Can we just take a moment?
Did you see this at all? I mean, I did not see Rice even putting up a fight against Marshall.
I didn't know Rice had a football team. Like,
you thought they were just an academic school?
I just thought they were a school in general. Let's just take a brief moment of silence for Marshall. All right, that's all I'm giving them. Disrespect. Because Marshall should have won this game. You're telling me that now I understand you were off for 1 or 2 weeks. But here's my thing. Yeah, you're not playing opponents, but that's extra practice time. That's extra film watching. While Rice is out there 1-2 coming into this game, Marshall was like, well, we might as well just take 2 weeks off of practice and sit back and drink some hot cocoa because this game right here, you're telling me you got shut out.
They
Rice.
They hadn't played in 3 weeks. They hadn't played since Middle Tennessee. So again,
I don't care who they had played or not.
It's like what we were saying with A&M last week. It's like you've been off for a couple weeks. I get being rusty, but against Rice, this is unacceptable. I mean, it's 5 interceptions.
Five interceptions.
Look, and I know the quarterback's a freshman, but if a quarterback's got 3 interceptions, let me look at this. Yeah, he stayed in the whole game. If I'm the coach, I'm pulling the quarterback after 3. After 3 interceptions, I'm pulling the quarterback.
Yeah. Well, and here's the thing. I mean, again, I understand the season's different. Everybody's trying to adjust to it. You've got 3 weeks in which you can watch film, you can practice, I know you're not playing a game that's hard. So I'm trying to feel that. At the same time, I felt like Marshall's defense just said, whoop-de-doo, it's the Rice Owls coming to town. We're not going to have to do a thing. And here's what happens, folks. When you don't come into a game prepared, I don't care who you're playing.
Respect your opponent.
Respect your opponent. Exactly. Yeah. Respect your opponent. I think Marshall took this game for granted. If I'm the coach, I'm kicking myself for not pulling my quarterback. Just an ugly game. I really am disappointed in Marshall.
Yeah. No, and I think we're in agreement. If we were the coach here, I'm pulling them after 3 interceptions. What's your threshold? Are you at 3?
Depending on how I would have to go back and look. I mean, even at 2 interceptions, depending on how he's played, or were those 2 interceptions just outright, misthrown, or were they tipped? Yeah. At this point, if I'm a coach,
scenario matters. Yeah.
Right.
I got you.
Yeah. If at this point, if I'm the coach, I'm looking at this game against Rice. I'm trying to keep my team in the rankings here. If he's thrown 2 just outright misthrown interceptions, I'm pulling him after 2.
Yeah. So here's how it happened. The 3rd interception was a pick 6. After that 3rd one, I'm picking.
I'm pulling him.
Because that's in the 3rd quarter. It's now 20-0. You've got about 10 minutes left, or let's see, you got about 7 minutes left in the 3rd quarter. After that pick 6, I'm sorry, man. I've got to pull him.
Here's what you're looking at. You're looking at you need 3 at that point. You need 3 touchdowns to win the game. All right, to pull out a squeak by victory. Your defense shut out Rice in the 4th quarter. Okay, so what I'm telling myself as a coach is my quarterback can't be trusted, so I'm putting in a new one. But here's the deal. I would have put in a new quarterback at halftime.
Yeah, because, look, Rice didn't really do anything on offense. It was mainly just Marshall just giving him the ball. Like, I'm looking at the second half for Rice. Like, they had a pick 6 and a field goal. That was it.
Yep.
The offense did not do anything. So Marshall's defense, I know you're saying they didn't come out for this game, but it was really Marshall's offense just giving Rice the ball and not allowing the offense to do anything.
Really, it was a classic case of Marshall just shooting themselves in the foot.
Yeah,
they didn't. I mean, this was Marshall. Really, this is how I look at this game. This was Marshall. No disrespect to the Rice Owls because they played a game, but this was a classic case of Marshall versus themselves. Really, like you've had 3 weeks off. How are you going to play the game? They lost, and they did it to themselves. So I have no sympathy for the team when you've had that much time to practice, when you've had that much time to play film. Yeah, you're not playing actual football, but Rice is coming off of a game from the week before, I believe, and you're going to come in there and say, well, we've got it in the bag. Obviously, you don't with a 20-point loss. So
Yeah, and just one more thought on this game before we switch topics here. Dabo Sweeney always talks about with Clemson, let's not lose to Clemson. All right,
yeah,
let's not lose let's not give an opponent short field off a bad punt, which happened in the Virginia Tech game. Let's not give up a pick six. So I think Marshall lost to Marshall
yeah,
this game.
for sure.
Stanford,
Stanford, Washington. Can we talk about that one a minute?
Sure. You picked
Very quickly
incorrectly in this game. So
I have to admit,
go ahead.
yeah, I have to admit, I picked Washington here, and I had no faith in Stanford. Now I don't know how this happened. I really don't. It was at home for Washington. Stanford just came out and said, "Oh, we forgot it's football season. We're going to start playing football." Because 14 points in the first quarter, 10 points in the second. Washington started picking it up in the second half, shutting Stanford out in the fourth. But I mean, unacceptable by Washington.
They just couldn't come back. I don't think they're built to come back. So I think that was the story in the game.
Yeah.
Let's talk about Indiana, Wisconsin. You picked this one correctly. I had Wisconsin in this game. Indiana losing their quarterback last week. I thought this was like a program-defining win, right? They were out some players. They were out their QB. And their coach, I don't know if you watched this on game day, but they have a LEO, right? That's their team mantra. And I just thought, credit to Indiana. I'm excited to see where this team goes in the future. Is this kind of a one-off season where they had a really great season, almost coming back against Ohio State, or is it just, can this continued success keep going?
I think you're right. It was a program-defining win because the quarterback before this game, everybody was like, "Oh, Indiana's quarterback's so good." Well, the quarterback went down. What do? It's this next man up mentality. And credit to Graham Mertz. He had one interception. That's Wisconsin's quarterback. Excuse me. I'm so sorry. I looked at the wrong guy.
Jack Tuttle.
Yes. So credit to Tuttle here, actually throwing no interceptions, going 13 for 22 with 130 yards with 2 touchdowns. Here's the thing. Talk about a guy who is living in the shadow of a good quarterback at that school, who's making that team look good, stepping up. We talked about this last week. Is this quarterback, is Jack going to be able to be the quarterback that Indiana needs, or are we going to see Indiana fall? I mean, I'm like you. I'm excited. This was whenever a team plays Wisconsin, it's always going to be a battle of just the will. I mean, low-scoring game, 14-6, but to do it at Wisconsin and to come out and to win that game and say, hey, we don't, our quarterback's good, but he's not our defining piece. I'm really excited to see where Indiana goes from here.
Yeah, but the question is, do you think Indiana keeps this success into next year, or is this kind of like a one-off year for them?
Well, I think, what I was just saying, everybody was thinking, this season, well, it's just because Indiana's got a good quarterback. Once he leaves, once he moves on, maybe, I don't know if he's planning on going to the draft or coming back or whatever.
I would assume he comes back.
I would assume he comes back. So at that point, I mean, you got your quarterback back. You've got some of your players, your receivers are sophomores and juniors maybe coming back. I think Indiana, you look for Indiana again next year, and maybe even look for them to get some revenge on maybe an Ohio State team. I really was pushing Indiana early, and I'm not jumping off that train. I'm still thinking Indiana's seeing a new era of football here. So look for them to good next year.
I like it. I like these teams starting to turn around things, and Indiana finally getting it together.
Yeah.
All right, let's talk about College Game Day. It was in Conway, South Carolina for the first time ever. Coastal Carolina and BYU, also known as the Mormons versus the Mullets. I thought that was hilarious. Obviously throwing it back to the convicts versus the Catholics, Notre Dame, Miami.
Yeah.
So I will say BYU was 2 yards away from winning this game. They were 2 yards away from winning. Let's give BYU a little bit of credit here.
Yeah.
But I mean, I watched this ending throw, man. I was on the edge of my seat. I was like, no way is BYU going to come back. But Zach Wilson, 19 to 30, 240 yards and a touchdown. He had a pick at the end of the second half, but that I'm not gonna. At the end of the first half, I'm not gonna count that because that's just kind of a Hail Mary throw.
Yeah.
But the Coastal quarterback, 10 of 15, 85 yards. Man, I mean, credit to BYU defense. I mean,
right. But let's also look at the rushing. I mean, you had Coastal Carolina's rushing. You had 54 carries as a team for 281 yards and 3 touchdowns. What that tells me is Coastal came in and won it. Yeah, the passing was low, but they wore down the BYU defense through their running and ensured the time. I mean, you've got 2 guys. Marable, he scored 2 touchdowns. He had 132 yards on 23 carries, and then Reese White was one of the other rushers. He had 12 carries, 53 yards, and a touchdown. I think Coastal Carolina played this game very smart because
I want to say one thing though. Looking at the stats, the only reason BYU had a chance to win this game is because they missed a PAT early, and then they failed the 2-point conversion at the end of the fourth quarter. So if they get both of those, I mean that's a 25-17 lead. So then BYU has to get a 2-point conversion on top of the touchdown. So
right,
just throwing that out there, like, I mean, again, special teams not coming in handy.
I'm gonna make a statement here. The game won't reflect it because you're right, 2 yards away from a completely different outcome. But I think Coastal Carolina proved that they're the better team. I think they did. I think they did, and I think
I think the steel field helped them.
The blue field,
teal field, teal. It's teal.
The teal, okay, the teal field. No, I mean, what? Listen, I could play on that field, but the field I could never play on would be Boise State. I mean, it's just a different feel for me. But no, here's what I think, man. I think Coastal proved that they got a real football team. A lot of people doubting them, and so they're not going to climb all the way up into the top 7. But they did squeak into that 2% chance to make the playoff if everybody else loses.
I hope they get into New Year's 6, and I hope they play a team, and I hope they keep it close against the team. I don't know if they can beat a Power 5 conference team because look at their Power 5 conference wins, right? Kansas.
Yeah.
Wow. Whoop-de-doo. You beat Kansas. I really hope they can get into New Year's 6 and prove that, hey, we're legit. Because I think this team is legit. So, anyways, that's all I got on that game. Anything else you want to
add? The one thing I want to add, it was just playing on the highlight reel here, was the at halftime the pick six or the pick that caused the controversy about the 2 Coastal guys pulverizing the quarterback. I think the reason that an ejection didn't happen or anything didn't happen was obviously it caused a little brawl there at midfield. But the Coastal guys can make a point or a case that, hey, we were blocking downfield for the guy. I don't know. I just thought it was hilarious when I watched it for the first time. I just kind of laughed actually because I was like, dang, that dude's got no help and he's getting killed back there.
Yeah, my thing about that is like, look, in that scenario, that is the only scenario where the quarterback doesn't have the same protections that a normal quarterback does, right? Yeah. When he throws a pick, like, he is a defender. Like, you can block him. But the problem I have is, like, the ball is 60 yards away. Do you really need to have 2 guys on top of him?
Right.
Let's say the returner is, like, 20 yards away from the QB. Then I think it's okay. I think that's totally fine. But in my mind, little surprised there wasn't an ejection there. But, again, he's he's a defender now, so he doesn't have the same protections. Yeah. Let's just briefly – I just want to briefly mention Bama and Clemson. Bama only putting up 55 points. LSU, a little surprise there. I thought the Saban interview was kind of funny.
The Saban interview had some shade.
Talk about it.
I just want to say thank you to Nick Saban. Thank you to Nick Saban. Nick's gotten soft over the years, but when he said that, I was like, he's still got a little fire in him. No, I think this was a game that Bama knew going into it. It was going to be a blowout, and so I think Saban just wanted to say, hey, yeah, you beat us last year, but we got to remind them who's boss. And listen, I will say this: Bama could have put up 80 points. I don't think that was the goal. But I am a little surprised, and this is where I'm still worried a little bit about the Bama defense, is that LSU did put up 17 points. But overall –
that's kind of been the story for Alabama this year. Their offense, no questions, no concerns, but their defense, ever since that Ole Miss – I feel like since the Ole Miss game, they've gotten better. But but I will say against Auburn, though, they looked amazing.
Yeah.
I'll give them credit there, but – I don't know. I mean, 17 points, like, you can't ask a defense to pitch a shutout every game.
Right,
you know?
yeah. So that's what I was going to say.
I'm not really worried about that 17.
Yeah.
And then Clemson, 45-10 against Virginia Tech. This game could have gotten interesting, but Virginia Tech's quarterbacks went down early. Let's see. Trevor Lawrence had a pick. That never happens.
Wow.
Yeah. Again, ETN, only 66 yards, and I think we've talked about this past couple weeks. It's because of the offensive line.
Yeah.
I mean, that is Clemson's biggest weakness is the offensive line. And I think that is the only thing preventing this team from being one of the best teams. And if I'm being honest, I don't think this is the best team in college football right now because of their offensive line.
Yeah.
They also, a couple of their defensive guys went down. I don't think it's anything serious. I think because of the off week, we'll hopefully get those guys back in the ACC championship.
Yeah.
But one other thing to note, our three best wide receivers are out. And I think they're all downfield guys. They're, 6'5" and taller. And I think that's the one thing Clemson is missing. And we've kind of put some guys in there that are normal slot receivers that can make those catches, but I think that could hurt Clemson down the road.
Yeah. So. Well, we're going to get to maybe talking about our picks and maybe mention the Heisman here in just a few minutes. But first, we're going to cut to a commercial break, and we will be right back. Welcome back, everybody, to the call. So what we're going to do now is we're going to actually talk about some of the upcoming games this week, preview some of those. And so I'm going to let Bobby kind of start us off here. Bobby, what's the first game we're looking at this week?
Yeah, there's really not a whole lot. I mean, technically a ranked matchup of Georgia and Mizzou.
Yes, sir. I'm gonna be watching that game for sure.
Yeah, Andrew's got some interesting opinions on that one. I will say Georgia, since they got the new quarterback, I think they've only played one game with him, but they look good with that new quarterback. Do I think they're worthy of a top 10 ranking? No. I mean, the only reason they're top 10 is because they have two good losses, right, against Florida and Bama. It's like I don't think you should be rewarded for having lost to two other top 10 teams.
Right.
Anyways, let's see. Bama, Arkansas, how many points do you think?
It's at Arkansas. I think
Arkansas, like that has any difference.
I think probably between 50 and 60.
Yeah, I'll probably do that. What do you think? Arkansas gets like 14, 17 points?
Maybe 14, 17. Yeah. Zero. See, if we shut out Arkansas, I'll be happy. Yeah.
Let's see. Colorado and Utah Friday night. I haven't even seen Colorado this year. Like, I'm just like kind of surprised they're 4-0.
Yeah.
But like they played UCLA, Stanford, San Diego State, and Arizona. It's like I'm just not impressed with any of their opponents.
Yeah.
It's like, sure, they might beat Utah, but it's like, what does that do?
Utah's 1-2. So
yeah, I'm just like, why are they not playing USC?
Yeah, I don't know.
I would love to see
a Colorado USC matchup.
Yeah, but like, why? They're in the same division. I don't understand why. Like, who gets in if they're both undefeated? I don't know.
I don't know. That's going to be something that the Pac-12 has to figure out for themselves.
Yeah, and it's like it's like it doesn't even matter because like even if one of them goes undefeated, the committee just doesn't respect the Pac-12 at all this year. So it's like, why are we even talking about it? I don't know.
Right. We have a Big 12 matchup, 11 a.m. on ABC. That's going to be Oklahoma and West Virginia. Interesting game.
Now hold up. Look, I am probably still going to pick Oklahoma in this game, but West Virginia, man, sometimes they just get these like weird games. They're like TCU. They just come out and they beat this team they shouldn't beat.
Yeah.
Do I think Oklahoma's going to lose? No. Do I think it's going to be close? Yes. I do think it's going to be close. Where is this played? This is played in West Virginia. In West Virginia. Yep. I don't know, man. I don't know. Well, let's see. We got North Carolina, Miami. Now, this is a game that I'm actually looking forward to. Miami hasn't played in a couple of weeks. They've had some COVID issues. North Carolina, 7-3. I mean, they've had some up and downs. Yeah. Of course, that one loss to Florida State that just like wrecked their season.
Right.
And how did they lose that game? I don't understand. But here's the thing.
I don't know.
I think their offense is legit, and I think they can outscore Miami. And here's the deal. Miami, you can almost bank that Miami's going to give you 3 penalties that'll just extend your drive.
Right.
Or that will force Miami to punt.
Yeah.
Because they're notorious ever since the late 90s when they were known as the convicts, right?
Right.
They've just been an undisciplined team.
Yeah.
And I'm early pick here. I got North Carolina because Miami just cannot keep up with them, I don't think.
Yeah.
And they've squeaked by too many times this season for them to be 8-1.
Yeah, I agree. Early pick as well. North Carolina wins. I think probably I'm going to say by 10 to 14 here. I think North Carolina shows up, shows out, and I just don't think Miami is. I mean, they're 8-1, sure, but I just don't think they have not impressed me all year. So
no,
I see North Carolina win this game. We got a Big Ten matchup, 2:30. Not a huge game. I'm just interested to see the line is even on this one.
Iowa and Wisconsin.
Iowa and Wisconsin. So I'm interested. I'm interested to see if Wisconsin's as good as everybody said they were at the beginning of the season. Obviously, they're not ranked anymore. I'm also interested to see how Iowa plays. It's at home.
Yeah.
I see this one being low scoring.
Iowa. If I'm not mistaken, let me look at this. Yeah, Iowa started out 0-2 and now has won 5 straight games. Now 5 of the wins. Let me list them off for you. Michigan State, Minnesota, Penn State, Nebraska, and Illinois. Are those 5 wins good? No.
No, none of them are.
They're not good. Maybe Michigan State is a decent win just because Michigan State had that upset against Northwestern.
Right.
But I will say they almost beat Northwestern as well. They lost by 1 point on Halloween.
Yeah.
4 points to Purdue. Purdue started out really good, and they've lost 4 straight games. So yeah. I don't know. This is kind of an interesting one. I think the line is even. I think that's a fair assessment there.
Yeah, I think the game is going to be a very low scoring, close game, just because you're dealing with 2 Big Ten teams, Wisconsin, and Iowa. The only other game, Bobby, that I'm looking at that sparks my interest is actually the late game here, and it's really just out of interest for me to see how they respond. It's going to be San Diego State at BYU. I think BYU wins the game. But I want to see how they respond to their loss against Coastal Carolina. Do they just say, well, our season's over, we're ranked number 18, or do they try to at least prove that, hey, we're still a good team and get into a good bowl game? So I'm interested to see. The line is 16 points. Like I said, I'm not doubting BYU winning. I'm more interested to see how they bounce back.
I think BYU's got this game. It's at home. But, yeah, it'd be interesting to see if they come out flat. Obviously, they had that quick turnaround against Coastal last week. Yeah, I think this maybe has the potential of San Diego State putting up a fight, but I think just BYU's offense is just going to be too good in this game.
Yeah.
But I want to preview a little bit of next week, just because this weekend is not as good. So we've got a couple championship games that I just want to get a quick take from you. We'll dive into this more next week, but let's just tease the viewers a little bit here, Andrew.
Yeah.
All right. First off, ACC championship, Clemson, Notre Dame, the rematch.
Yeah.
And the biggest difference in this game is health of Clemson. And, that not just on the defensive side, but on the offensive side. So if we remember the first matchup, Clemson could do stuff on offense. Like their backup, DJ Uyunglele. Yeah, he played he had 400 yards passing. It wasn't that Notre Dame was stopping Clemson. It was Clemson couldn't stop Notre Dame.
Yeah.
And now that they have more guys on defense back, I think this is going to be a different game. Do I think Clemson blows out Notre Dame? No way. Notre Dame is too good. They've proven it. But of course, I'm going to pick Clemson. But I just think it'll be a lot different.
Yeah, I'm gonna say this. I'm not gonna make a pick because it literally goes not yet. It literally goes either way. I see it two different ways. You got a healthy Clemson back, like you said, who has got to, not trying to, who has got to win the game to stay alive. And so that's going to be the motivation, not just for the team, but for Dabo and for the next few weeks. I think Dabo's mindset right now is to prepare his team for this game. So how is he doing that over the next 2 weeks? Notre Dame's got this mindset that, hey, same deal. We've got to win this game to stay alive and stay here. So neutral site game.
I think Notre Dame can lose this game and still get in, though. So I think there's more on the line for Clemson here. But I will say I was watching a press conference with Dabo, and Clemson has finals this week. So they're after today they're gonna stop practice for Thursday, Friday, and then pick it up. Actually, they're gonna take Thursday, Friday, Saturday off, and then go back to work on Sunday. But I don't know. I just think this is going to be a different game. And it'll be interesting to see if Clemson can contain Ian Book. Nobody has contained him all year. So it'll just be interesting to see that.
This is going to be a fourth quarter game. I mean, it could be a drive that determines the game. I mean, it literally could be that close. I'm not going to make a pick yet. I'm not quite sure. I need to look at how I need to go back and look at Notre Dame's game. I want to go back and look at Clemson. Does Notre Dame play this weekend? I don't think they do.
No, they're both
done. So
ACC put out a rule saying, hey, we know these teams are in the championship, so we're going to give both teams a week off, not reschedule. Notre Dame originally had a game on the schedule. I believe it was Wake Forest, but since Clemson didn't have one, they decided to make it fair and even, which I personally agree. I think that's probably the fairest thing to do.
Yeah, so I think I'm not even going to mention who I think or which way I would. I mean, personally, this is going to be a very good game. So
no, I agree. Then we got the Big 12 championship, Oklahoma, Iowa State. Wow. I mean, another really good game. I think it'll be interesting to see, Oklahoma, they had those 2 weeks, almost 3 weeks, with that, what was it, triple or quadruple overtime against Texas.
Yeah.
But ever since then, they've looked better and better, and their QB has looked better. It'll be interesting to see. I think Iowa State actually wins this game, though.
Yeah, I was about to say I want to see Oklahoma play. But I'm gonna make a pick right now. Iowa State in a close one. It's their first time in this game. I know Oklahoma's got some experience here, but Iowa State's just they're red hot right now, and so I think Iowa State pulls this one.
Yeah. Also, Oklahoma plays a game this weekend, and Iowa State is off. That's something to note. So Iowa State gets a little more rest, a little more time to prep. So I think that actually gives them a slight advantage going into this game.
Also, I think you look at Iowa State trying to make their best case scenario here for a potential. Can we jump? If Florida loses, can we jump A&M if there were a spot open? They're sitting in that spot where they've got to make a case. I think they try to come out, and I think it'll be a close game, but I think Iowa State's mindset is, can we handle Oklahoma in a good way? So we'll see. I think Iowa State wins that game.
Yeah. And then the Sun Belt Championship game, Coastal and Louisiana. You all know who I'm picking. But Louisiana, man, I'll give them credit, man. They have looked better and better, except for last week, and we already talked about that. I'm not going to mention that again. But man,
I think Louisiana comes in swinging hard, but Coastal Carolina just won a game day game, a big game. I think Coastal Carolina wins this game by at least 10 points, and I think they try to make their case for a New Year's Six. So
yeah, I agree with you. And then SEC Championship, Bama, Florida. Like I said, like we've mentioned before, if Florida is a complete team, then I think this is a totally different game. Like, I think if Florida actually plays like they do in the second half, if they play like that in the first half, I think this is a different game. But they have not proven to me that they can play 4 quarters.
I think this game is probably near an exact replica of what the Georgia game looked like. You may see Florida up at halftime, but they're not a complete team. Bama wins in the end by at least 10 points, I think. So
yeah, I think it's opposite. I think Bama actually comes out in the first half with a big lead, and then Florida comes back in the second half, but I don't think it's enough. That's what I think happens in this game.
Either way, I just think, like you said, Florida's not a complete team. Bama is. Bama knows how to be a complete team. So I think you see Bama win here, like I said, by at least 10 points. So it's going to be an interesting weekend of football.
In 2 weeks, yeah. But anyways, enough of that kind of teasing out. Let's get into our picks this week.
For week 15.
Week 15. Let me get my other board over here.
Can we briefly mention, Bobby, what happened last week with the pick'ems?
Oh, yes. I finally won, everyone. And, Andrew will be drinking a mystery drink sometime this week. So be on the lookout for that. He's going to post it on his Instagram. And, I will be first in line watching that live.
I'm sure you will. I can't wait.
Yeah. So, but let's get into it, guys. Or guy, whatever. All right. Let's start with the ranked matchup. Texas, Kansas. Do we even need to say anything?
Well, I spent all night thinking about this game. In the many different ways that Texas is going to throttle Kansas. So please give me Texas.
Hook 'em horns. Tom Herman, he's not going to be there next year, though.
He's not. I don't care how bad you I don't care if you post 100 points against Kansas. You won't be there next year.
Yeah. All right, Bama, Arkansas. We talked about this earlier. I think Bama, no issues here.
Yeah. Bama for me as well, sir.
All right, Georgia, Mizzou.
All right, here's what I think here. Georgia's playing some good football. They got that new quarterback in there. But Mizzou, the last few weeks, has played some very good football. We see from the beginning of the season up until now some improvement. It's in Columbia. It is at Memorial Stadium. I'm going to go out on a limb, and I'm going to say that Mizzou puts up a really good game against Georgia and wins very close game there to kind of finalize their season. So give me the Missouri Tigers, sir.
I hope it happens. Do I think it's going to happen? No. All right, let's keep it going. All right, Oklahoma, West Virginia.
I'm gonna pick
We talked about
Oklahoma.
this earlier. Yeah, Oklahoma. Like I've said, I think their QB has been playing a lot better. So give me the Sooners.
Yeah.
All right, let's keep it going. Yeah, we didn't even talk about. Let's pause here. Michigan and Ohio State canceled. Man, that's big. So that's the first time in like 100 years this game isn't being played. Do I think Ohio State would have throttled Michigan? Yes.
Yeah.
But it's
No
just
doubt.
something to note. Oh, here we go. We got America's game. This is actually where game day is going to be. Navy and Army. Who you got? Army's 7-2. Navy's 3-6. Honestly, records don't matter in this game.
I don't
Records
care.
do not matter.
I'm going to tell you something. There was a few years ago where Navy was the team to beat. Navy was ranked. That was because they had a really good quarterback. Army has stepped it up. I really love the football Army's playing. So give me Army in this one. Give me Army. And I think Army. I think Army. It's not going to be a blowout because, like you said, records don't matter. It's always a close game. But give me Army maybe by 10 points here.
Just because I want to make this interesting, I'm going to pick Navy just because it's a rivalry game. Like I said, records don't matter in this game.
Yeah.
So I'm going to actually go Navy in this one, even though 3-6, they just haven't looked great. But I think they turn around. They will get up for this game. I guarantee you. This is not going to be a blowout game by any means.
Yeah.
All right. We got North Carolina, Miami. I've already said who I'm going for. UNC.
Yeah, North Carolina for me too. I think Miami's just an overrated team right now.
They are so close to just bottoming out, and I think this time it actually happens for them.
Yeah.
Purdue and Indiana, your second favorite team.
Yeah, I'm picking Indiana here.
Indiana, I agree with you. I think they proved they've got a QB. I want to see the QB pass more though.
Yeah.
I want to see him step up. I think that last week it was kind of a getting to the feel of the game. So I hope he steps up against Purdue.
Yeah.
All right, we got Wisconsin and Iowa. We talked about this game earlier and how this could be an interesting one. Who you got?
Yeah, I'm gonna pick Iowa here by field goal. I mean, very close game, and I think I'm just giving it to Iowa because of the games they've played. Now, of course, they haven't played anybody good necessarily. This one could teeter either way, man. Wisconsin's played some good teams. They played they've played Northwestern. They've played some good teams. So I think the experience with Iowa with 7 games versus 4 and it being at home, I think you're going to see Iowa pull it out. But it's going to be a very good game. I think they got it spot on with the line here, it being even.
I've actually got Wisconsin in this game. Like I've mentioned earlier, I got a family friend playing at Wisconsin. But I think they turn around. Like we've mentioned, Iowa hasn't played many great opponents. I actually like Wisconsin in this game. Let's see, we got another one. LSU and Florida.
The toilet bowl.
Golly. I don't know what else to say.
I think Florida wins the game.
Do I think they win convincingly? No, because they're not a complete. They're going to come out in the second half and they're going to play really well. That's how they're going to win the game.
Let me say this: since it's 2020, if there was ever going to be a shocker, it would be from LSU because LSU just is that bad of a team. And they were. I mean, this isn't a victory at all. They put up 17 points against Bama. Woohoo! So my only concern is the line's about 23.5 points for Florida. Does Florida go in there and say, well, it's LSU and undermine it? So I'm picking Florida for a good hefty win. I just say don't underestimate LSU just because they're 3-5.
Do you think that Florida might be looking forward towards Bama next week? That could hurt them. I think so. I think they will.
I think
they're
are
looking forward to that game. So
I think they are. I think Florida's already looking to Bama because everybody's already saying, Bama's going to throttle Florida. I think they look forward, and that's what I'm saying. You can't look forward too much because sure, LSU's a sucky team, but they're an SEC team, and this would be the week to shock somebody. So
Again,
just Florida, look out.
Respect your opponent. Yeah.
Yeah.
All right. Oklahoma State and Baylor. Golly, Oklahoma State. Remember when they were undefeated?
Remember when they were like number 6? Yeah, that was a long time ago. I'm gonna say I'm gonna say Oklahoma State. I mean, Baylor has
I hate picking them, but I mean I don't know what else to do. I mean Oklahoma State just because I don't know. Like how we don't have a good reason of picking them.
Yeah.
All right, USC, UCLA. Chip Kelly's team. I don't know, man. You know how I felt about USC this whole year. So
yep.
I don't know. This is a rivalry game. Man,
it's the Rose Bowl, Pasadena. This game's always been good. I think Chip Kelly just needs another year, man. I think he's getting it there. But so I'm gonna stick strong.
USC?
I'm gonna stick strong with USC because
you got fight on.
Let's fight on Trojans. That's all I gotta say.
You know what? I got UCLA. I think Chip Kelly gets it together. All right. We talked about this earlier. BYU, San Diego State. I think we both got BYU in this game.
Yeah. I would like to see BYU bounce back strong here.
Yep. And then, all right, that's all the ranked matchups. Now let me go back up. Let's get some interesting picks coming in here. I got one for you. Pitt and Georgia Tech. What do you think?
Yeah, that's a battle of two teams that are probably up and coming over the next few years. I see Pitt. I see Pitt winning that game.
You got Pitt?
Yeah.
I don't know, man. Georgia Tech. I think they pull it together in this game. They've been close. They've got some young guys. I think they finally pull it together and beat a pretty good Pitt team. Even though, when Clemson played them, it just wasn't even close. But I think Georgia Tech, man, I'd be interested to see where they are next year. They've got the pieces in place.
I would too.
So I'm gonna actually pick them. Let's see. We got another game.
Yeah, I've got one for you here real quick.
All right.
I've heard some people talking about this team and why they potentially aren't ranked and why not. It's a conference that you don't hear about a lot in football or basically any other sport. But Nevada at San Jose State, both teams looking real good record-wise, 6-1 and 5-0. Some people have said San Jose State, why aren't they ranked? What do you think? This is two teams we haven't talked about before.
So this is the Mountain West. Golly. As San Jose State, have they played Boise State?
It was canceled. So
that was my only thing. If they would have played Boise State and beat them, then I think it could have been different.
You've got the other games they've played, they've won pretty heftily, 17-6 versus Air Force, 38-21 versus New Mexico, 28-17 San Diego State, and 34-17 UNLV. We don't count Hawaii because Hawaii when has Hawaii ever been good?
So you know what? Oh, this is a tough one. Who you got?
I've got to. I want to look real quick at Nevada. I just looked at San Jose State because I was reading up on this earlier about San Jose.
The one loss is to Hawaii in Hawaii, 3 points.
Yeah, give me a close game here with San Jose State on top.
Yeah, I think I'm gonna have to agree with you there. It'll be interesting to see how this game plays out, though. You're right. We haven't talked much about the
Mountain West.
Yeah. All right. Let's see some other one. That's a Friday night game, so that'll be fun. Let's see. Oh, Washington and Oregon.
Whew. Yeah.
Both teams kind of on the decline, you know?
Yeah. I think it's at Oregon. It's going to depend on how quick Washington comes out the gate because Washington's not a comeback team. So as much as I want to pick Washington here, I think Oregon's probably going to squeak this one out.
I don't know, man. Washington, I've got Washington. I think Oregon has had 2 really bad games, and I'm not believing in them. So, yeah, I've got Washington. Let's do one more. Let's see. That's a good one.
We could always highlight I'm looking to make sure there's no other games.
Here's one for you. Here's one. Duke and Florida State.
Duke and Florida State.
Both teams, 2 wins. Florida State canceled 2 games in a row off of
do we want to even make a pick with Florida State because they flake on every game?
Oh, yeah. They probably won't play. But if they do play this game, I think Duke wins.
I think Duke wins too. I want to make one more pick here. I would say let's talk about the Tennessee Vandy game, but I think Tennessee's going to win that one just because Vandy just breaks my heart. The Vandy's still – it's Vandy.
That's why.
I want to look at – here's an interesting game. Let's look at this one. We have Stanford at Oregon State.
Wow.
Oregon State, they upset. Who did they upset at the beginning?
Oregon.
Was it Oregon? That's right, in the Civil War. So, and Stanford's also beat Oregon. So I would love to talk about a potential good game here. Looks like it's going to be raining with 46-degree weather. The line is Stanford by 3. What do you think?
I've got Stanford. I picked them last week. They helped me out. So I'm going to go Stanford again.
Yeah, I was surprised by Stanford last week. Oregon State has lost to Washington State. They've lost to Washington. They did beat Cal, who turned around and beat Oregon. And then they beat Oregon in the Civil War and then lost to Utah. So as much as I want to pick Oregon State –
no, pick them.
I think I'm going to pick Stanford this week.
Oh, come on.
Bobby just wants me to pick a lot of opposite teams so he has a better chance of winning again.
Yeah.
I know how that game works.
Yeah. Well, that's all we got, folks. We'll be posting this soon. And, yeah, be on the lookout for Andrew's Instagram. That'll be a lot of fun.
Yeah, we're going to try to do a better job of social media posting on the podcast Instagram as well as our own. And go ahead, Bobby.
And when Andrew does his video, he's going to tease the next week's punishment. So be on the lookout for that. Yeah,
be on the lookout for that. And then next week, we will obviously be highlighting the championship games, the conference championship games.
And we'll give a Heisman. We'll give a Heisman update next week.
And we're going to do a Heisman analysis because I think we're coming down to it, Bobby. I think personally, I think we know, at least I think I know who the top 3 are going to be. Yeah. So we're going to break that down on the call for you. But again, that's all we've got for you for the football segment. Also be looking out for our basketball segment that's also coming out today. But as far as this goes, I'm Andrew, your always resident Alabama fan with a big Roll Tide. Bobby?
Yeah, and like you said, I'm Bobby, your resident Clemson fan. Go Tigers.
Roll Tide, and we will see you guys next time.